What's going on, everybody? My name is Cesar Lorca and I'm a DP based out of Miami, Florida, and today I'm going to show you guys how I shot this fight promo with 24 hours notice and turnaround. So let's take a look at it.
I changed my entire life around for this sport. I know it makes no sense for most people. The thing is, I'm just not like most. I'm bored by comfort, excited by challenge, stopped by no one, afraid of nothing. You could say I'm like a master of the mundane. Day by day, detail by detail, rep by rep, I'm crafting. You might not know who I am now, but I can promise you won't forget my name.
So I received a text message in the middle of the night saying that I need to come in the next day to shoot this promo, and pre-production was non-existent. So I ended up having to make a rough little storyboard on the back of a napkin, and I used that as like a little reference. So within 24 hours, I had to find lights to rent and go and shoot this and turn it around for the following day. So one of the toughest shoots I've done, but I really enjoyed the turnout. So the gear I used for this video ended up being a Aputure Nova 300C, two Nanlite Pavo tubes, the 4-foot version, and an Aputure 120D. And the camera I recorded everything on was on my Panasonic S1H. Now let's hop right in so I could show you how I set up the lights and my thought process while shooting this. Okay, so let's start with the intro scene. Right here, I had my friend help me tape up the Pavo tubes right here. There was one right here, and then there was another one right here. Boom. And I had those I think they were at daylight, I think 5500. And they're just filling up this spot right here. Oops, that's an ugly arrow. Pointing over here, which lit her on this side. So I tried to shoot the entire time from the shadow side because that makes things look a little more cinematic. And as you guys can see, here's the shadow side. And I always preach the checkerboard pattern. So we got light right here, dark, light, dark, and that gives your image that cinematic look. So that was the thought process through setting up this scene. I didn't have any other lights here until later on when I used the Aputure Nova to be able to fill up the gym on the other side, so we'll move on to that. But this is one of my favorite frames and scenes that I've shot, I think, all time. So hope you guys enjoyed. It's super simple, just two lights, and we got this look out of it, so it's kind of crazy. Now let me talk a little bit about the framing. There's a lot of leading lines in this place, so we have these lines that direct your eye straight to the subject, which is Stephanie. So I always try to keep in mind of the framing for that. So this was a pretty good angle. I was shooting into the dark side and I was paying attention to the leading lines in the background, and I feel like this is a very pleasing image because of that. This gym is entirely white throughout, so it's very, very hard to create any form of contrast. So being able to get contrast in here like this was a win. I think the time we shot this at was around like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So right after we finished shooting this, I had to speed home and start editing it, but I'm so happy that we did this. So in this scene, I brought in the Nova and I shot it into the roof to be able to bring up the ambience in the gym because it was pitch black. So you can see that it brought up the ambience in the background right here. So this is the Nova. And then I had the Aputure right here. So bad at drawing these, but whatever. This is the 120D, which was shining in her direction, which you can see here, affecting her. And then on this side, I had my friend Hollywood, a Pavo tube, whatever, right here, to fill in some of the shadows that were over here. But as you can see, it was too bright right there, and that's one of the prices you pay when you try to shoot something quick turnaround. But overall, I really enjoy how the image turned out. So for the close-up, it was the same exact lighting setup. The Nova was here, the 120D was here, shooting in this side, and I shot into the shadow side because it makes things look more cinematic. So this is the 120D, and we shut off the pavo tube that was over here, so we got rid of that. Okay, so for the bag scene that was a little more high energy with the flickering lights, we had the 2 pavo tubes from the beginning taped to the wall that were keying her on this side, as you can see, and then I had the Nova, which you can see in frame, but it's moving so quickly that you can't even see it, but unless you look for it. And if you're like me, you look for mistakes sometimes just to be like, oh, look what I saw. So this is the Nova right here, blasting into the ceiling to bring up a little bit more ambience, and the whole time the lights were flickering to give it like a very high energetic feel to it. So the key takeaway that I would say is always shoot into the shadow side to create that depth in your images, and it makes things look a little more cinematic. And now at the final shot, which is the hero shot. So I had the 120D right here. Boom. That's the 120D. With the Nova still on the side, shining into the ceiling. And as you can see, it's filling her up right here, creating a checkerboard pattern. And when I was there, I remember this side of her face being extremely dark, which it felt extremely dark at the time, but I know there was information still there, so I had my friend Hollywood Nova here as well. Looking back now, I wish this wasn't here to let this roll into shadow, this side of her face roll into shadow a lot more, because that's the look that I enjoy to have. But I hope you guys picked up a little something here of how I like to think through my lighting scenarios. I always like to shoot into the dark side. I always look for leading lines, and then I love Rembrandt lighting, so I always tend to try to make that the kind of look I go for. So yeah. Alright guys, so that concludes this breakdown. If there's one key takeaway I want you guys to take, is that even if you have a 24-hour turnaround to pump something out, I hope you guys realize that you can still get some pleasing images in a short amount of time, just using some key little elements like shooting into the dark side of your image, having intention in your lighting, and just don't get discouraged. It's really easy to get hung up on wanting to have perfect images every single time, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.